The Energy East pipeline project has been dead for more than 7 years. Now Donald Trump has some premiers talking about bringing it back to life.
Why wouldn't we talk about Energy East?
I called for the Prime Minister and asked the federal government to immediately approve the Energy East project.
Energy East was announced in 2013, a proposed pipeline to carry crude oil from Alberta to St. John for export to global markets, to reduce Alberta's dependence on the U.S. market. With Trump's tariff threat, that's a priority again.
We want to stop being so reliant on a single trading partner. We've got to take down internal trade barriers between Canadian provinces, start looking at how we can do major nation building projects to our east and west coast.
Here's one problem. No private sector company is proposing to revive the project. TC Energy, once known as TransCanada, scrapped Energy East in favor of trying to revive its Keystone XL pipeline to the U.S. TC Energy sold off its oil pipeline division last year. The spun-off company Southbow says its focus is using its existing infrastructure to supply more oil to the U.S. Problem number 2, it would be hard for any other company to build a 4,600-kilometer pipeline. TransCanada had a natural gas line covering 2/3 of the distance and was going to convert it to oil, so it would only have to build new pipe for a short distance.
That extra bonus of having the steel there bridged the gap between what would otherwise be an unsustainable or too expensive a project and made it feasible.
Third problem, if a new pipeline is needed to get Alberta oil to world markets, the Northern Gateway pipeline to the BC coast, killed by the Trudeau government in 2016, would be shorter, cheaper and faster, and potentially easier to revive. Next problem, Ottawa has overhauled its approval process for pipelines, so Energy East would have to start from scratch. It would also have to overcome political opposition, something investors are well aware of.
The size of these projects and the regulatory and political risk, I think, is actually a very big barrier to imagine that these would be revived.
Then there's the need for Indigenous consultation, plus all the engineering, surveying, and construction work that would be required.
That would be a long, arduous process and a long hiatus, long in the sense of 4 to 5 years to get back to exporting oil. That is never going to happen.
President Trump will be in power for 4 years. Building a pipeline takes a lot longer than that, so anybody who tells you that's a short-term answer to diversifying energy systems doesn't really know what they're talking about.
Thank you, everybody. I'm just pulling into St. John, and look at that.
Even Energy East fan Pierre Poilievre is no longer talking about getting Alberta oil to New Brunswick if he's Prime Minister.
Of oil, so that the oil that comes here can come from Newfoundland rather than coming from overseas.
Without a private sector company, and the right market conditions, and enough time, the only way Energy East might get built is if the federal government decides to do it.
Things that we think of today as being not possible, it's partly because we haven't had that kind of urgency and effort to make it happen. Now, is that going to be there either from a Poilievre government or a Carney government or a Freeland government? I think that's the question that's sort of up in the air. But I think we do have to say there could be a very different world once you're in a 25% tariff environment.